Finally today, some are asking if he's America's Pope Francis. The newly appointed Archbishop of Chicago, Blase Cupich, is shunning the mansion occupied by his predecessors and echoing the Pope's call to care for the poor. I spoke with the Pope's first American-appointed Archbishop earlier this week about how he plans to bring the Pope's vision to Chicago.
Well, I'm going to do what I've tried to do the 16 years that I've been a bishop of a diocese, and that is to get to know people. I think one of the things that the Holy Father is appreciated for by people is that he's speaking in a way that really resonates with their aspirations and concerns. What I find to be very interesting in the Francis effect, as people call it, is that people do have a sense that the Church is listening to them, and also that he is speaking to their deepest desires. And if I can in some way emulate that example, then I think that I'm probably on the right track.
Yeah, what do you mean by that? What to you is the Francis effect?
Well, I think that people today find that the Holy Father is looking at people, addressing people in a way that shows a deep respect, but also realizes that the world, our communities are deeply divided. And so he is trying to make sure that we come together and not leave anybody behind. And I think that is something that I want to continue to do in my ministry.
Many people that have watched Pope Francis say that he emphasizes the pastoral approach, that Pope Benedict more emphasized orthodoxy. Is there a change in terms of emphasis in the Catholic Church?
Well, I explained it by a nice phrase that I heard, and that is John Paul II told us what we should do. Benedict XVI told us why we should do it, and Pope Francis is saying, do it.
And so what specifically does that mean, do it?
Well, I think that, for instance, a lot of the things that the Pope Francis is talking about in terms of economic policy have their seeds in many of the writings of John Paul II as well as Benedict XVI. He is making it more precise, I think, because of his own experience in Argentina and being very close to the poor on a day-to-day basis. I think that gives him a different metric, a different way of seeing what the teachings of the Church are in real terms. He is putting the emphasis on the real life of people and bringing the ideas to bear upon the real life situations of folks.
But you in your own background appear to have emphasized conversation over confrontation. You haven't been particularly confrontational with politicians who disagree with you on issues like abortion, for instance. Do you think the Eucharist has become too politicized?
Well, I think that is important always to begin with an attitude of dialogue. It's important to listen to people, and it's very hard to have dialogue because in order for someone to tell you why they think you are wrong, you have to sit in patience to allow that to happen. The communion rail, as they say, cannot be the place where those discussions are fought. But rather we have to look at how we're going to deal with the tough issues of the day in a constructive way and as adults who respect each other.
So when you say we cannot politicize the communion rail, you would give communion to politicians, for instance, who support abortion rights?
I would not use the Eucharist, or as they call it, the communion rail, as a place to have those discussions or a way in which people would be either excluded from the life of the Church. The Eucharist is an opportunity of grace and conversion. It's also a time of forgiveness of sins. So my hope would be that that grace would be instrumental in bringing people to the truth.
What do you think of President Obama's immigration proposal?
Well, the bishops of the United States were very much in favor of action being taken to protect people who need to come out of the shadows. It's been too long of a time for people to wait for comprehensive immigration reform. And so we see this as an important first step, hopefully to jumpstart what's happening. My concern would be that we would have a policy and a procedure that would have a confidentiality provision, because if people come out of the shadows and sign up and give their names and information, they want to make sure that that is going to be protected in the future should the executive order change by another administration. So I think it's very important that this be done very carefully, but we applaud it as a good first step, but more needs to be done, and we encourage the President and members of Congress to get this work done.
I noticed that you said the work of comprehensive immigration reform is not important because it is on my agenda, but because it is on God's. What does that mean? God wants immigration reform?
Well, it means that the aspirations that people have for a better life for their children, in which they are reaching out in hope, as many people who have come to this country have, those aspirations were placed in their heart by God. We have to attend to that. This is not just something that they're wanting on their own, but God has always called us to a better life, has always called us to experiencing how we can provide for our families in a better way. And I think that being a grandson of immigrants, I feel that very deeply.
Same-sex marriage is now legal in 35 states with more battles in the courts in the coming months. What should the church say about same-sex marriage? Does it need to change at all?
Well, I think in Washington State, where I was bishop for the last 4 years, there was a referendum on this very issue, and I spoke very clearly about this. I said, first of all, that we cannot use this moment of public debate to say anything or do anything that would provoke violence against gay and lesbian people. We have to make sure that we're not part of that, and we would condemn that. At the same time, it's not just about gay marriage, it's about whether or not we're going to have statutes in our states that uphold and protect people who take the risk of bringing children into the world. People who, as mothers and fathers coming together in their love, continue the human race.
I mean, do you think gay parents can be good parents?
I think there are people not only who are gay, but many single people are good parents, and I don't think that's the issue. I think the real issue is, should we continue to have legislation that supports, protects, and upholds those people who take the risk of actually bringing children into the world and preserving the human race.
I understand the church's teaching, but just to be clear, so you do think there should be legislation to protect those parents who are bringing children into the world and caring for them that are in same-sex relationships?
Well, but no, I'm saying that the people who bring children into the world are a man and a woman in their own love that bring children into the world. I do know that there are gay couples, there are others, grandparents, single people who adopt children, who maybe even have children not from the act of love, but who care for children in that way. And yes, I think that there has to be a way in which we do support them. But I do think there's something unique about a man and a woman coming together and bringing children into the world and preserving the human race and providing that example as a mother and a father, a male and female within a family, that also deserves the state's support and also protection.
What do you think about what Pope Francis is doing in terms of tackling the issue of sexual abuse in the Catholic Church?
Well, I think that he's continuing the work that was begun earlier by his predecessors, especially by Pope Benedict XVI. He does see that it is a human problem. It's not an American problem, it's not an Anglo-Saxon problem, it's a human problem, and it's not just a Catholic problem either. And I think that protection of children is very important.
But Pope Francis was the first pope to enact a commission led by Cardinal O'Malley to actually look at this issue and propose reforms.
Yes, and I applaud him for that. I think that it's a great step forward, and particularly the people that are on that commission who have many times criticized the Church for the way that it failed to respond. And I think that the Holy Father has made a singular contribution forward, but it also has to be seen within the wide spectrum of the work that was done by his predecessors to get us to this point.
There are many tough issues facing this country right now. There are deep racial divisions, terrorism and war raging overseas, a sluggish economy in some parts of the world. Do you have a message for people on this Thanksgiving?
Well, I think that the message I would have is, first of all, be thankful for the gifts that God has given them, especially their families, and to allow the loved ones that they have who surround them in this time to remind them that all of us belong to a larger family.
And what about what is happening in Ferguson? Clearly there is still a lot of anger and a lot of distrust in Ferguson and St. Louis.
Yes, it's a tragedy all the way around for the family of Michael Brown, and I could hear the heartache in the voice of his father and family members who called for peace and tranquility. They want to respect this young man and realize that violence will only disrespect him. There's suffering on all sides here, and we need to do a better job, not just in terms of justice, to make sure that those who are involved in law enforcement conduct themselves in a proper way, but also that we deal with the deep, serious social problems that provide a context of unrest whenever tragedies like this happen.
Archbishop Blase Cupich, thank you so much for your time, and happy Thanksgiving.
Nora, happy Thanksgiving to you and all of your viewers. It's good to be with you.